Stephen Kersh, it's great to meet, and it's great to have you on the Single Track podcast.
Yeah, Finn, thanks for having me. Excited to chat.
A couple things that I want to cover before we get into CCC. So you're typically based out of Flagstaff, Arizona. You've had an interesting training history there, affiliations with the Coconino Cowboys, and I am somebody in our sport who is very fascinated with trail running teams and have always been a long time admirer of that group. And, you know, there was a time I feel like around 2018, 2019, just before the pandemic, where, you know, the team was incredibly active. And I'm curious, where does it stand today, especially with people like, you know, I know Cody moved at least to Mammoth at one point, and Jim is out in France now. Are you still like a cohesive unit? Like, do you still train together and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think, yeah, at its core, it's like we're all just really good friends, you know? And I think that will never change. Like, especially all of us that are in Flagstaff currently. So myself, Tim Frerichs, Eric Sinsman, and Jared Hazen. Um, you know, we joke because we'll be running at like 11 on a weekday, and it's like, what are we doing? This is like summer camp. Like, we're just like best friends, like going for trail runs, you know? Um, and so, yeah, I see those guys multiple times a week. I run with them all the time. Consider them first and foremost just like some of my best friends. And then, yeah, like, lucky enough to be able to train with them in flag. And I think, yeah, maybe a prior iteration of the Cowboys was like a bit more, maybe it was more like branded almost, you know, like trying to be more of like a, not really like a, maybe like a legit training group. Not, and I think, yeah, in the last couple of years, just, yeah, some things have changed. People have moved away. I think everyone still has really high aspirations and goals, you know, to become what we can be in terms of our athletic potential. But yeah, man, I think first and foremost, we're all just really good friends, and that's usually where we like to keep it.
Right on. Well, like I said, I think it's super cool. And it's always fascinated me that on the roads and the track, there's this rich tradition of, yeah, just having these like co-located teams. And I feel like the Cowboys were a really strong first iteration of that. And I shouldn't even use past tense because, like I said, you guys are still great friends and it still works. But I guess it's more just like a hat tip because it's cool stuff.
Yeah.
A couple more things I want to talk about before CCC. You had a great interview with Dylan Bowman on Free Trail a couple months back. And, you know, obviously you're a great athlete and you've done amazing things on that side of the sport. But I think I'm just as fascinated by what you do with your business, Rabbit Wolf Creative. And I'm hoping we can talk for a second about what excites you from, because it's like a content marketing business, right? So
Yeah.
I'm curious, what excites you from like a content creation standpoint in our sport, and like some of the opportunities that you see for our sport to evolve in that regard.
Totally. I think what excites me is that I think more and more brands and companies are seeing the value in telling stories around athletes and teams. And just, yeah, being able to, I feel like I'm in a super unique position because, you know, obviously I'm an athlete and I get to see that side of it. But then I kind of look at everything through a lens of like, oh man, this would be a great story to tell, you know, like, you know, there's so many people in this sport that have interesting backgrounds and are doing interesting things, juggling, you know, most trail runners aren't just trail runners, you know, everyone's kind of got another job or something else going on. So I think if we telling more of that like human story is what's always been interesting to me. And that's what we try to do at Rabbit Wolf is like, you know, we're not really going to go tell a normal story of like a Western States or something. We're probably going to dig a little deeper and figure out like, okay, well, why are you here in the first place? Like, why do you even want to run 100 miles? Like that's what's interesting to me. Not necessarily like how someone does, but like, why do they even get there? So yeah, but it's been really exciting to work with brands that do see value in that and are putting money towards it.
Who are some of the brands or clients that you get to work with in the trail running space?
Man, we worked with just about everyone, which is pretty cool. My own sponsor, Adidas Terrex, we've worked with a lot in the last couple of years. And that's been great. Like they've been super, not really, I guess like hands off, but just like letting us kind of come to them with ideas, and then they've been fully supportive of them. And yeah, so Adidas, I think, is doing a lot of great things. You just had Robert on the podcast, and I think that was eye-opening for a
Right.
lot of people to just kind of get a glimpse into what he's trying to do. Him and then our sports marketing manager, Charlotte Droon, what they're trying to do in our space. And yeah, they're investing heavily in not only the team aspect, but also the telling the story around it. Hoka does a good job. Obviously, we've been doing some stories for them. That's called like the Humans of Hoka, which has been really cool, and I think really gets at the heart of like what we like to do, which is tell more that human story. So yeah, it's been fun, man, to start this business and kind of carve out a little niche in running for us.
Right on. Well, let's move closer towards CCC here.
All right.
Starting with Western States, you've actually, you're somebody who, as soon as you had a chance to do that race, you kind of nailed it on the first try, and you've had success there. I'm sure, there are things you could do to improve 1% to 2%, but like from an outsider standpoint, you've crushed it. But it looks like you've cleared the deck for CCC this year. Like this has become your sole focus. Are you of the mindset that like a Western States UTMB or CCC double like just isn't pragmatic from a peaking and training standpoint?
Yeah, I think it probably looks like that CCC is like my big focal point. But like going into the year, I think my big focal point was just to not do Western States, because it just like yeah, I had the opportunity I could have taken a spot again, but I think it just beats the hell out of you, and like mentally, physically, it's just a grind to put in that much time beforehand, and then you pay it all back, with like recovery. Some people don't somehow. I certainly do. So I think I was just curious, like, what if I could just set up a calendar where I could just race more? And even going into the year, I was like, okay, I'll do CCC, because I knew that Adidas was going to have a big presence here, and I had the opportunity to run it again. But like, it really wasn't. I didn't really think about it a lot. It was not enticing to me. But then in like the last probably 2 months, it has become this like bigger deal to me, and I think my training has gone really well, and now I'm like, oh, I can do very well at this race. So now it's become like this is a focal point of the season. But yeah, going into the year, it was almost just like, oh, I'll be there, but i don't I don't know. And now it's definitely like, yeah, I'm really excited for it, and I've put in a lot of good training with singularly focused for this race.
Well, without a doubt, you've proven yourself as one of the best at like a truly runner's race, like Lake Sonoma and JFK and Western. Obviously, on paper, but also just practically speaking, this race presents a lot of different challenges. And I'm curious what parts of your skills that you think will be on display at a race like CCC, but also what have you had to work on in training to convert over to a race that involves like at times more hiking and just more like relentless up and down?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, like I know that I'm a very talented aerobic runner, and that is going to carry over to most races. So just like the fact that I know that I can run fast for a long period of time, and I've proven that, like that gives me a lot of confidence. But then there's like things that yeah that aren't as specific to that. Like yeah, I've had to hike a lot. I've had to start using poles, which has actually become super helpful. At first, it was a hindrance. I didn't know what I was doing. I was all over the place. But then, like with anything, it's like, okay, if you give it really focused practice, it's going to become very comfortable. And like that's what I've been really happy with the last couple months. Is I decided, I said, I think these are going to help me. I need to practice with them. And like there's so many runs where it's like I don't want to take these. I don't want to just hike around, but then when you actually do it and it becomes kind of like second nature, I think it's going to be really helpful. Um, so that, and then, like downhill running, technical stuff is definitely not a specialty of mine. I can run,
Mm.
give me like a graded, Forest Service road, and I love that. But so that's been something that I've had to, again, like have just really focused practice on, is just quick feet, trying to run fast downhill, let go of some inhibitions. So yeah, it's been fun, man, to have to really challenge myself with some new training and some new, just a totally different mental approach too.
I feel like you've been in the sport long enough at this point to have a good sense of how you're feeling heading into race day and whether you're capable of, doing something out of the ordinary or special. Where would you say you're at fitness wise and confidence wise right now, about 2 weeks before this race?
I feel really fit. Yeah, like I've never come into this race before, like with, or even like a mountain race with any sort of like really solid training. Like even last year out of Western States coming to this, I was injured and I knew I hadn't put in any training. So I was like, okay, well, this isn't going to go well. But now with this, it's like, okay, you just feel it. I just feel really strong. This is by far the best that I've ever, my highest, I guess, like hourly per week that I've been able to put in for the last couple weeks. And it's fun to get out here, especially in Chamonix, where you're not at 7,000 feet, and you can just feel good, like climbing, and you're just kind of the miles and elevation is ticking by. And I think when I can get into that kind of rhythm, which I felt the last couple weeks training out here, I know that I'm capable of something. So yeah, I'm going in there with expectations to get on the podium.
Very cool. Last question I have for you, for the gearheads in the audience. I know you run
Yeah.
for Adidas Terrex. Can you talk about the shoes you're wearing?
Yeah, man, still haven't decided which pair because we're lucky enough to have a few good ones, but it's narrowed down probably between the Speed Ultra or the Agravic Ultra. So the Agravic Ultra is going to give me a little more protection, which I tend to like, especially on like more technical descending. Just kind of I can feel a little better going down that. But then the Speed Ultra is a lighter shoe. It definitely feels better climbing. So there's probably going to be a little give and take. But yeah, I don't think I'm gonna do any shoe switches like I did at JFK or anything or Western States. So probably just one pair and I'll just deal with it.
Right on. Well,
Yeah.
Stephen, it's great to meet. It's great to chat. We'll make sure to link to all of your social media in the show notes. We'll link to Rabbit Wolf Creative as well. Before we go, actually, if there are brands that are listening or there are athletes that are listening that want to talk about your business, maybe they just want to talk about like content creation or sport in general, what's the best way to get in touch?
Man, our DMs are always open over at Rabbit Wolf Creative on Instagram, and then yeah, we inquiries hello at rabbitwolfcreative.com, and yeah, always love just chatting with people that are doing similar stuff in the space, or maybe we can help out the project. So yeah, I appreciate that, Finn.